take care of yourself when you're doing
Yeah,
this.
and let's stop there for a minute because I've been there where the aches, where you can hardly move, energy, you just don't have it, and you just can get really stuck in that space, even affecting you mentally. Where you get that lethargic kind of feel about you, and so I had to go back this was, I think, on our first walk, maybe back in 2000. And I didn't really think, and I'm saying this for people who might say, well, I can go out and walk 20 miles a day, and they don't think about there's a nutritional consideration that you have to make to support your body to be able to do this. And you really you can't, that's not the time to stop eating, or you really have to feed your body in order for it to continue to have the proper amount of protein and carbs and all the other things that it needs to. And I just wanted to say that because sometimes people hear stuff, oh, I can do that, and jump out there. So your experience was you stopped giving your body the fuel that it needed, and it's like a car. You kind of started chucking. And
exactly. And I didn't walk for several hours the rest of that day, but I rested and ate 10 pounds of food or something like that. Now I slowly got better. The biggest hurdle was sometime in that time period, an 18-wheeler's tire exploded, like right as it drove past me. And the explosion was so big it kind of rattled me physically. And then the rattling, it started to play itself out in my head mentally. What if the tire exploded and the truck jackknifed? I wouldn't have been able to get out of the way. Or if it dumped the next truck, what if the next truck did the same thing and dumped this load of pipes? I wouldn't be able to get out of the way. The tire came off and slid and hit me in the head, cut my. It started to play out in my head, and my mind ran away with it. And so I almost came to a point where I couldn't physically move because my mind didn't want me to. Every 18-wheeler passed by, I'd walk off the road, get off the shoulder, walk way off into the grass, and then come back to the road. That's not a problem on Route 66 in California desert because you never see any trucks. But on Interstate 40, you see an 18-wheeler every
other
seconds.
car. Exactly.
You're right. Every 10 seconds. And so that made it very difficult for me to continue, but I had to get through it, and my responsibility carried me through.
Yeah, I know when we first started this walk, we were walking one day, and there were a group of us walking together, and a truck came by and had a blowout right beside us. I mean, literally right beside us. And one of our walkers, it really almost paralyzed them. And I really think that had an impact on them not being able to really push through that experience because you play out all the possibilities of those kinds of scenarios. And so on a walk like this, sometimes people have an idea that you're walking down a path, on a wooded, section, and that's very far and few between. You really are out there. You put yourself in various dangerous positions. I mean, even you talk about the Peace Pilgrim. After walking 25 years, she died by getting hit by a car. So, so when you make a commitment to do this, you have to be not only physically at the top of your game, mentally and spiritually as well, right?
Yeah, I look at it, it's an act of love, and love is about vulnerability. And by doing this, you put yourself in a vulnerable place. And as in relationships, people fall in love and don't want to deal with the possible consequences of being vulnerable, and they don't react well to it. You have to have a certain level of mental, emotional, and spiritual fitness and elasticity to be able to bend with the wind when it happens and recover from it.
What was one of your moments on the trail when you on your walk when you really had to? I always say, God bless the flexible, for they should not be bent out of shape. What were one of the moments when you on the walk that you had to change even the way you thought things were going to be or how you were going to do something because you realized that circumstances around you that may not have been the best way? Did you have any of those moments?
That was a big one. It was a big deal working with the support vehicle driver because originally it took a while for us to get to start to jail. in doing it. We were friends before, but it just took a while because I had planned for months to do it on my own.
Right.
And then eventually everybody, the resources came about to where we could support a driver, get a vehicle and everything. And so it took quite a while for us to start to understand what each other's role was out there.
Right. Right.
And that was a cause of major static.
Okay.
But I'm glad that she was there. I'm really glad that she was there because it was the impact, I think, is much greater than I would have had if I was just walking alone. There are certain logistical things that she was able to provide, and having a support vehicle there it gave the trip kind of an infrastructure that we could reach out to people from. And if it was just me out there, it would have been a great experience for myself.
Right.
Profound experience for myself. But the responsibility to the collective would have been less served, I believe, if I did without the help in that platform.
Yeah, and I think
platform.
just from what you said earlier, it took you from a me, my space to the collective space, that I'm doing this in service, and so you included the community in your story. And what I'm hearing by that, you were able to make it a us story.
Right.
Because, we got many of me stories. We got many of my accomplishments. We can all rattle those down. I know on our walks, that's been sometimes it takes a minute for when I share my story to try to, I know whenever I've started into the next vision, and to take the walk or the idea of a walk from a me space to a collective space.
Yeah.
Because it's a different journey that way.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that burned me up the most is when I come back. Like me left, and when I got to the Grand Canyon, there was no more me doing this. The only reason I kept going is because I was trying to raise awareness for homelessness. That was the only thing that kept me going. If there were no cameras on, I probably would have stayed at the Grand Canyon for a couple of weeks, and I don't know. There's no telling.
Right.
Maybe come back home and start looking for jobs, but that responsibility carried me the rest of the way. And people always say, "Good for you, young man. Good for you." And it would boil the pot over inside me. And I'd smile, but I hated it because it was so much it was so much not about me.
Right.
So much of it was not about me. And that's one of the things I just had to kind of learn to live with. And I guess adjust my message as I speak about it, because when you do something like this, it's an intangible thing.
Right.
And the tangible thing about it is me.
Yes.
I'm talking to you, so you can touch me and talk to me and ask me about things. And so I think it's a natural, it's a natural thing. So what did you think? How were you, instead of looking at the ineffable thing that's the idea, the ethereal part of it?
Right. And I think that's one of the challenges often in funding projects like this. I know I've certainly seen it in my over a decade of being out here. Is funders want to know, well, give me some tangible evidence, and and so you are constantly challenged to look at, okay, what is the evidence that I was here, and that whatever the vision is, that it reached the people and it had an impact.
Right. Yeah.
And so because I really believe that the work we're doing is not only valid, it's essential on the planet right now, especially in this country, because we're having to shift. We're having to shift the collective conscious because we've gotten so comfortable on the other extreme. So the acts that are going to bring that consciousness, swing that pendulum back the other way, are these incredible acts of faith that different people are engaging in. And when people can see it beyond the person, and it really begins to affect the vision of people in community, then we can begin to really build upon that. And I think after 10 years, I'm really beginning to see that. And the reason I think I'm seeing it is because people are hungry for change. Right. People are hungry for opportunity. And so when something comes by like this, like your walk, like our walk, and then they begin to connect to it, it helps them to connect to their passion. not only for what they want, but for their own passion of possibility.
Right.
Their own possibility.
Right. Exactly.
So, I really want to encourage you to continue to hold the vision. I also want to invite you to stay connected with us, and I certainly want to do that with you, because I think that you would be such an inspiration to young people all over the country who are in vulnerable positions, who need to have role models, someone they can look up to, especially someone that has the heart, and that's what I see in you, and I want to encourage you to be open to that possibility, because I'm certainly going to do everything I can to connect you to whatever people I know that I can just see you coming in and just having such an impact. And so let me ask you this: have you collected a lot of photographs of your journey?
Yes, hundreds of photographs, and hours of video footage. It's a lot of information out there. It's quite a bit. Yes.
Okay, well, let's take a break. I want to take a moment. Maybe we can play Be the Change. I'm not sure if Ade or Tony or both of you are out there, but if we could bring up Be the Change, I think that's a real appropriate song for this moment by Gina Renee. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some synchronicities along the way, and certainly an interesting synchronicity as we came into the Houston area. So let's listen to Gina Renee on Be the Change. Welcome back to Peace Talks on Life Conversations Radio. This is your host, Audri Scott Williams. In studio with me today is Noah Rattler. And I say in studio because wherever we are, it is our studio. So today we're coming at you from Sealy, Texas, as we continue our move across the country. We're in the RV here, and so we have the opportunity. Noah Rattler has joined us for this week to help us make some miles to get to Austin, and today we had an opportunity to slow to walk down, and so unexpectedly we had an opportunity to do a great show. Thank you, Noah, for being my guest today. We only have a few minutes, so there are two things I want to accomplish. One, could you tell us about your sleep outs that you're doing?
In 2008, I was trying to figure out a way to carry the momentum forward and not let the ball drop until the money was raised and it was a national thing. And the idea of the sleep out came back from something I saw on the walk itself. And so we did a Houston sleep out in 2008. And in 2009, we did the second one. And just now, on November 13th, 2010, we had our largest sleep out. We had people all across the city sleeping outside in solidarity and raising awareness and empathy for homelessness. And now the goal is to expand it. So on November 12th, 2011, we'll be having a sleep out all over Houston, and we'll be having a sleep out in Atlanta, Georgia. And it will be symbolic in a way of several things. It's about community and healing, and ultimate healing comes from a place of finding a peace inside. And the walk, the 13 Moon Walk for Peace, will conclude in Atlanta on 11/11/11. The sleep out is scheduled for 11/12/11. I think it'll be it will be a natural tie-in.
Absolutely. The community in Houston is challenging communities around the country that we walk to and through to get a busload of people and having them come to Atlanta to walk those last miles with us. So in Houston, they're organizing what they're calling the Bus Walk 11/11, and they really, it's amazing. They've already come up with their logo. They're getting ready to get it up online, and I'm like, wow, you all are something else. But surely that was our experience. But coming out of that, on Bus Walk 11/11, the communities here, of people here that we've met, will be coming to Atlanta, walking that last stretch back to the King Center. And on the very next day, we're going to be doing a sleep out, and that's where you're inviting the community to come out, in their church, on their church grounds, on community center grounds, wherever, and set up sort of like little tent cities, if you will, to give people the experience of being in solidarity with the homeless population, and then we'll see what comes from there. I have an idea, Noah, that a lot of good things are going to come forward as we continue to plan it, and we'll look at how we maybe even include some other cities so that your dream really becomes a starburst and that awareness is raised. At the time that we're in on our country, things that are happening, I think people are going to have to take note that the fact that we have to become responsible for not only ourselves but our communities and the wellness of our community. I want to switch 1 second and just say that on every walk there's a synchronistic moment. We met you, you drove out, you saw us walking into Houston to the ranch, the Taylor Stevenson Ranch. You stopped. You and Art, I think, were the first ones to greet each other from the walkers.
Right.
Then you came back to the ranch with us. You sat in the RV and started talking and brought up the Mojave Desert. What happened next?
It was come to find out that I was supposed to meet a guy in the Mojave Desert. He finished crossing the desert before I did while I was walking in '07. And the guy who I was supposed to meet was sitting right behind me while we were sharing this story. And he's Art Brown.
And so Art, one of our walkers, they had this moment together. Art, do you remember me? Oh man, I remember you. What do you have to say about that, Art?
It was magic. He's an amazing person. I only wish that I had the chance to meet him in '07. You know, I think we could have collaborated on some other things since then. But yeah, it's been very special meeting Noah, and you know, I'm sure I'll know him forever.
Yeah.
We didn't walk in, but we got a chance to walk yesterday. We did get a couple more miles in before it's over with.
Did 13 yesterday.
Yeah, they decided they were walking together. See, they're supposed to be walking. One walks 13 alone, and the other one picks up down the road and walks 13. But you know, they had to have that comrade moment, so they got to walk together yesterday. And as I said, Noah's here helping us make our miles to Austin. And also, I think another purpose that you're here, Noah, is so that we can all get to know one another, because we have big works to do. And that goes beyond any one of us individually, as you so eloquently said. I want to say thank you for listening to Peace Talks on Life Conversation Radio today, as we bring you inspiration and wisdom from the walk, the 13 Moon Walk for Peace. Again, we're in Sealy, Texas. Next Friday, we'll be coming to you from Austin, Texas. And one never knows what is in store for the week to come. We give thanks for all of you who continue to give us your love, your prayers, and your support. Have a wonderful week. And don't forget to tune back in next week at 12 noon. And we'll be sending this out all over the country to all of our listeners. And we look forward to our show next week. Thank you, Ade. Thank you, Tony. Peace. Be the change.